George Lucas's recent comments in relation to Star Wars, Disney, and him putting himself into the position where he's fully backing Disney, their decision of what they've done with Star Wars, and Bob Iger has caused a massive meltdown. So let's talk about what's happening now. So chances are you guys have seen it in relation to Star Wars, because if you look up Star Wars, especially on YouTube among all the other social media, most of the Star Wars YouTube that gets pushed forward is all negative, hating Star Wars, or just straight up, well, bigotry related to it. Let's be real. It is what it is. Of course, many times we've seen countless Star Wars content creators just straight up lie about Star Wars. Take quotes, literally misrepresent them, misrepresent things that have been said by various actors, sometimes even just make-believe quotes that never existed, and those are used as proof. George Lucas has been at the center of this since like 2010, but it really peaked around 2015 to now, where he apparently always hated Disney, hated Kathleen Kennedy, hated Bob Iger, hated everything they've done with Star Wars, wanted nothing to do with it, all these different things. We know for a fact that that's not true, as Lucas has done interviews and issued statements talking about how much he loves what they've done with various aspects of Star Wars, and especially what they did with a character like Rey, which people ignore this again, but is based on what he was going to be doing with his sequel trilogy. So when he made recent comments that reflect what he's been describing himself as for decades now, a radical liberal, and this caused another rift, but also him putting the backing behind Disney and Bob Iger stating that he wants them to continue to operate Star Wars the way that they have because he loves it. This has caused even more outrage, and it's also led to confusion and more misquotes and people lying. People don't realize that George Lucas has always been like a hardcore left person, going all the way back to interviews related to the first Star Wars. If you go uncover those, many of them written in all the articles and all that, and some of them on video, you will see that he was straight up talking about a future where he kind of wants it to be like Star Trek. On top of this, he said he puts political views into everything, hence why the prequels are mirroring how he felt about the invasion of, well, multiple countries in the Middle East. He did not agree with it. He, of course, criticized multiple presidents, pretty much the Republican ones. People know this. So somehow this has now reared its head around where people, I guess, missed the point that he was doing that. And now they're outraged at what he said, his comments, and that he has betrayed them. And by them, I mean the fans who have been lying about his feelings in Star Wars for a decade almost at this point, misrepresenting various things. Which, again, you guys asked me to talk about this, so what else can I say? It's his feelings. I don't have to agree with everything he says. I don't have to disagree with all of it. I can be somewhere in the middle. I can find fault in things he said and all that. But to me, it's not going to change anything about Star Wars as I'm watching Star Wars for more Star Wars. The people working on it, his opinions on it, it doesn't sway me to like it more or less. So I, as a fan of George Lucas's, who looked up to him since the moment I knew who he was and saw my first frame of Star Wars, which was Empire Strikes Back with the walkers. That's one of the earliest memories I have as a kid. I've always looked up to him. I was there in the trenches, constantly being hated for being a prequel fan when I was growing up with them, and still am, so he stated what he wanted to state. People are turning on him, but I think that's kind of stupid, honestly. Like, you never, I don't think, understood Star Wars if you missed what he was going for. At the forefront of Star Wars is his political views. If it upsets you now, maybe you now understand who he is, or you never did, or you somehow were just grifting for the sake of it, and now you can't.